a roll call of the members present, starting with the vice chair who is online. Paul, can you hear us?
I can now. Thibodeau present.
Okay.
Fairfield present.
Hardikoff present.
Flanagan present.
Mako present. And seeing that fully seated member Tim Graff is not present tonight, I am going to appoint alternate Tracy Hardikoff to sit in his place for all hearings proceeding this evening. Also in attendance, we have our town planner and our zoning administrator.
Madam Chair, could I please make a motion that we potentially move case B to case A and reverse the order of those for expedience sake?
I do think that that's a good idea. I do think that case A will take longer. So do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, Smako, aye. So that's a unanimous approval to move case B, which is the variance request for, I believe it's Baxter Lane, to item A, and the request for rehearing will follow that. So at this time, I'm going to call case 114-44-GR-25-VAR, owners Jeffrey T. and Kimberly A.T. Pierce for a variance from Article 4.1.1, Table 2 for a front setback of 34.16 feet where 40 feet are required, a side setback of 21.03 feet where 30 feet are required, and a side setback of 25.07 feet where 30 feet are required at 73 Baxter Lane.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Bauman. Here representing the Pierces. I appreciate you moving us up in the agenda.
I'm sorry, is this microphone on?
Oh.
Yeah, and repeat.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thibodeau. Good evening. My name is Kevin Baum. I'm an attorney with Hopeful Phoenix, Gormley, and Roberts, representing the Pierces.
Looks like you do.
I'm saying I appreciate you moving us up. But I think our engineer was not here, and she just walked in. So that addresses that issue. So if you have any questions, Kat Morrill is here to answer questions. And I believe the Pierces will be here as well, but they may be running behind because of the switch. But I'm prepared to make the presentation, and I don't know that you'll need them. But if there are any questions, we certainly address them.
Okay, well, I think we would love to hear from you to start by reviewing the 5 criteria of the variance for your application and how they apply.
Yes, thank you. As an overview, as you mentioned, we're seeking relief, setback relief, front and side, to construct a new single-family residence at 73 Baxter. The intent is this to become the Pierce's full-time residence. Right now, it is developed with a very modest cabin, an old septic system, and 2 sheds, all of which are non-conforming. The existing cabin is in the rear setback, and the sheds are in the side setback. We're proposing to remove the existing cabin, both of those sheds, and construct a new dwelling farther back. This is on Swains Lake, farther back from the lake, so it'll be fully outside of the 50-foot shoreline buffer, which the existing is currently in, and much farther from the rear and the side lot boundaries as the existing house, and certainly the sheds. Which will also allow us to move the older existing septic system farther as well, and completely out of the 100-foot shoreline buffer. However, it is a fairly small lot. It's just under or about a half an acre, and so and it also has a slight. If you look at the plan, I don't know that it shows on the one that's up there, but to the front, you'll see the front boundary line jogs in as well, and as a result of that, the front setback jogs in slightly too. So it results in because of that jog, it results in about a 34-foot setback where 40 feet is required. So there is a slight, it goes slightly over, but only in certain spots, and it's still pretty far away from the road. And likewise on the side, there is slightly on both sides into the side setback, 21 where 30 is required, but it's importantly, it moves that shed that's about 10 feet from the right sideline right now. It also, I think most importantly, moves everything back from the lake, and results, I note, in about 186 square foot reduction of the net impact within the 5-foot shoreland setback. So we think overall, though there is some slight encroachments, the most important improvement is moving away from the lake and the environmental benefits for that. So if I can, I'll quickly go through the variance criteria. They are in the memo, and so we'll rely on that, but I'll go through them as well. The first two criteria, the Supreme Court has said that those are considered together under a single test. That's the public interest and spirit of the ordinance. The question or the test that the court has articulated is whether granting the variance will threaten the public health and safety or welfare, or alter the essential character of the neighborhood. And I don't think either is impacted here. If you look at Exhibit 4, which is the aerial photograph, there are other larger homes within the setbacks in that area. We think the size of this home, which again is the intent is for this to be a permanent residence, is consistent with those surrounding homes, and certainly the two on either side, on the same side of Baxter. There'll be no impact to the public health, safety, or welfare. It moves the structures, all the structures farther from the lake, allows the old septic to be relocated, replaced with a new system, and moved much farther away from the lake and much more compliant. And as I noted, results in a 186 square foot reduction of the net impact within the 75-foot shoreline setback. The next test is substantial justice. It's essentially a balancing test. Any loss to the applicant in denying the variance has to be outweighed by a benefit to the public. There's no benefit to the public in denial here. We're reducing the nonconformity. We're moving everything away from the lake. And denial results in the loss of a new, reasonably sized full-time residence for the Pierces. The next is that surrounding property values not be diminished. And there's no evidence that there would be any impact, negative impact to property values given these variances. They really would allow the removal of a pretty old, very modest cabin and outbuildings and replacing with a brand new residence. If anything, it's certainly going to improve the property values of the Pierce's property, and in turn, that should only help the surrounding property values as well. Certainly no evidence of negative impact. And then, last, that there be substantial hardship. That's a 3-point test. The first is that special conditions distinguish the property from others in the area. We think this is special conditions clearly apply here. As I mentioned, it's a very small lot. It's about a half an acre. It is very limited by both the shoreland setbacks, and then there are some wetlands to the right, which are shown on the plan, which further limit buildable area as well and constrain the lot. And as I noted, that little jog in the front property boundary creates another impact, making it harder to meet the front setback as well, and which is why we're asking for that 6-foot variance. We think all of those combined prove that there are special conditions distinguishable from others in the area. And then the next test in turn is that there's no substantial relationship between the general purposes of the ordinance and the specific application. generally the purpose of setbacks is to promote privacy between abutting properties, avoid encroachment, shading, and that's just not going to be the case here. The lot across the street is a very large undeveloped lot. There's an existing additional buffer just caused by the road. Basically, it can only get so close. And likewise on either side, to the right, the nearest home is actually not technically the abutting property. There's actually a small piece of property that comes down from the lot across Baxter. And I mention that because that little spit that comes down to the lake would never be, it's not buildable. And so that's going to always create an additional buffer between properties that really offsets the setback, side setback relief that we're asking for here. And likewise, on the other side, that lot is fully developed, and the way it's been developed, that house is actually pushed to the other side, is likely also within the setback, which is fairly consistent for the area, and with the driveway in between. So in the absence of a complete redevelopment of that lot and layout, there is a buffer there as well that offsets the small side setback relief that we're requesting. And then lastly, the proposed use has to be reasonable, and the Supreme Court has indicated that if the use is permitted, it's deemed reasonable. And here we're asking for setback relief to create a residential use is fully permitted in this area and consistent with the area. So we think the relief, which will really just allow us a larger, more livable full-time home for the Pierces is reasonable, and that all the 5 criteria are met.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions? Actually, do we have any questions from the board?
Yes, I have a question. You say that, or in the documentation, it's talking about the proposed side setback to 21 feet. Is that on the side that has a little spit coming down, or is that on the other side?
That's a good question. The closest, the 21 feet is on the side that is closest to the house with the driveway.
So not the abutter that's got the little tiny.
No, that one, it would be 25. The 21 is on the other side. But again, we think that the condition is limited by the layout of that house and where it's placed on the far side of that lot.
Has the owner of the house, have they commented on this?
My understanding, and I don't know if anyone submitted anything, is that the neighbors are in support. And they certainly have the opportunity to speak. We were here last month and here tonight. So again, there was some discussion about having them submit something to the town. I haven't seen anything, so it may not have happened. But what I'm told is that they're all aware, the ones on either side, and they're in support of it.
And the 34 foot to the front, as opposed to the required 40 feet, is that the entire house, or is that the entire house, or is that a portion of the house?
It is not. It's a portion. It's I don't know if it's possible to bring the plan up again, the variance plan. It's hard to see with all the topos, but it does show. It's really mostly the 2 corners of the lot. It's maybe a couple feet on the right and then a little bit more on the left, just because of the shape of that lot, which again, not only does it have that jog in the front, but it's also not a square. It also narrows down as you get towards the road. So that makes that side setback a little closer.
Thank you.
Yes.
What's the square footage of the cabin that's being removed?
916.
Okay. And the base floor of the home it's being replaced with, how many square feet?
The footprint.
The one floor footprint on the bottom floor is double the size. Okay, thank you.
I actually would like to ask a clarifying question on that. The existing house, the 960 square feet, does that include an upstairs as well? It looked like it had. It does. Okay, so, okay. Any additional questions from the board?
Does the possibility exist of building a dwelling that would meet the setbacks?
Well, I think the difficulty is trying to position it as far away from the lake as possible, and the fact that the lot gets narrower. So that we think that I don't know if it is feasibly possible, but again, the test is whether the general purposes apply, and we think that's met because again, that the little bit of relief needed on the side and the front is offset by the external conditions and the general area around it.
One last question, Madam Chair.
Yes, of course.
You're replacing a septic system. Are you putting in a pipe and stone, or are you putting in another type of septic system away from the lake?
I'm going to let. Why don't you come up? I'm going to let Kat Morrow, the engineer, and probably the designer as well, speak to that.
So the proposed system is an advanced AES to help with the, as the advanced tech.
I had one follow-up question.
Of course.
In the documentation, it said that it's in the size of this is consistent with the neighboring homes. Can you talk a little bit about the consistency?
Yes, yeah, I think if we can, well, that helps. I think if you look certainly to the right there, that is a much larger home. Probably the best is if you look at the aerial photograph that was included at the first page. I think it's Exhibit 4. We think the size of those homes relative to this proposed home and the lots is consistent with the general area.
Thank you.
Let's see. Any additional questions from the board? Okay, at this time, I'm going to open public comment on this case specifically. Please come up and state your name and.
Daniel, 334 Old Concord Turnpike. Can you go back to that picture of the house lot, the setbacks? Right here, this angle, the dangle. I don't think it's parallel, so if you specify this, make sure it's not references that corner. So if the building inspector goes out there, it's off by a couple inches. I've seen people come back to this board for a couple inches.
So I do believe, well, okay, no, thank you.
On your motion, you should make sure you're that point, is that right there? I think it's a little bit less. So than what they're asking. So make sure you use that corner as for the variance, so there's no conflict there later on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Anybody online? You can use the raise hand feature. Mr. Zoning Administrator, do we have anybody? Okay. Then at this time, I'm going to close public comment and turn it back over to the moving parties. If there's any further comments you have before the board deliberates.
The only thing I would add with respect to the design and the size of the footprint of the house is this is intended to be a permanent residence that the owners can age into. And so some of the design is based on livability and, first floor living space and bedroom. So that's part of the design as well and part of the layout.
Okay. Anything from the town planner or zoning administrator on this particular case that you want us to know? Oh. Yes, Tracy.
No, the only thing I'll add is this was a lot approved by the planning board, so it wouldn't be subject to the class 6 and private road. That's not relevant, but.
Yes.
Is the home going to be part of the Swains Lake Water District? Will the water for the home continue to be supplied from that water district? Is the water, do you receive a bill now for your water?
There's a well on the lot.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions from the board? Okay. At this time, I am open to discussions or any motions that anyone would like to bring forth.
As far as discussion goes, I'd like to interject that I think that, looking at this plan, the shape of the building lot where it narrows at the road, which brings the setbacks in narrower at the road, and they're pushing this back away from the water to meet the setback from the lake. A new septic system, state approved. Well radius looks like it's going through the shed on the neighbor's property to the left. I'll call it the left from looking at it from the lake, but I mean, I don't believe the neighbor's septic is there. Other than that small area of the well radius, I plan to support this application.
Thank you, Mr. Thibodeau. I do think that this is what the variance criteria are designed for. This is an oddly shaped lot and a lot that is non-conforming in general size as well. Any further comments from the board?
Now I'd make a motion.
Okay, I'm open to a motion.
A motion to approve case 114-44-GR-25-VAR, recognizing that the variance from sections 4.1.1 table 2 should be permitted because granting the variance would not be contrary to public interest, would not have a negative impact on the natural resources or the surrounding area. In fact, may actually provide a better buffer for water quality in the area, that the spirit of the ordinance and substantial justice would not be impacted and could be executed by granting the variance, that the reasonably sized, livable year-round home will not decrease surrounding property values, and that the hardship for anyone building on a non-conforming lot would require potentially looking at all of our tables. So that would be my motion.
Okay. Okay, and I have a second for Mr. Fairfield, and I'll roll call vote, starting with,
Madam Chair,
yes.
real quick,
Yeah.
I just noticed something, and I don't want it to become a problem later on down the road. There's already an existing impact. They don't show the wetland. They show the wetland in buffer on this parcel. I think it would be appropriate to add a 9.6 wetland buffer impact as well to, kind of strike both if the board would be good to that. They may have to make a trip to the planning board otherwise.
Can you show us on the,
Yeah, I just realized pulling up that plan that these double dotted lines that you see here, one's the 35 that was 97 to something time range, and then the 50-foot, that's the current wetland buffer setback. So they're gonna have, they're already impacted there, but I think just to make this clean and move forward, that they're gonna have an increased impact, that wetland buffer.
Are you referencing flags W5 through W9?
I just noticed these parallel dotted lines here that indicate, and I apologize, I didn't, but.
Jamie, I don't think your microphone's on, by the way.
I apologize. Yeah, if
Oh,
you
there
look
you
at
go.
the
I
top
hear
of the
you well.
screen, you
So-
see the 50.
So you're
foot-
talking to the right side of the lot, the 151.55 sideline?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so W5 through W9. They look like wetland setback markers to me, but I don't see any wetland indication. I don't see anything, I don't see
I-
anything there that says it's wetland.
They, on the top of the screen there, I don't know if you can see it, it says a 50-foot wetland buffer and the 35-foot wetland buffer. So I imagine that buffer, I'm guessing it's not delineated and, you know, they're going to get a shoreland impact, they're going to get a shoreland approval to do this project. And I brought it up to the planning board, you know, to not do a 9.6 when maybe a shoreland's going to be given anyways. They're going to go to the state DES, but just to make it clean, if the board would be open
So
to
you'd like us to amend our motion to include what verbiage?
a 9.6 buffer impact for the increased impact into the wetland buffer area.
Shouldn't we leave DES to make that determination?
They're only going to do the physical disturbed area, where ours has that buffer area that's going to include, you know, possibly include their driveway and septic area that they won't look at. They're only going to look at their disturbed area, you know, in that 250 range. And so they could, DES could.
So if we allow the
Cover that.
variance and we have a first and a second on it, would they then go through the planning board for the 9.6?
That would be the other option if DES addresses all the impact.
Madam Chair, I'm not wishing to step on our planning board's toes, so if that is best handled that way, I think we should proceed with the motion and allow the planning board to do their.
I clarified
Can we have
with,
some more conversation about it before we vote?
yeah, and I just want to add that I did clarify with council on another matter, that this exact conversation, but on another application, that it is appropriate for both boards to address these because they are in zoning. The caveat to that is a denial by the planning board would not be heard by the ZBA. Because of the way it's written into zoning, it would go to Superior Court. So that, I did clarify that yesterday with Ernie present on another application.
So the amendment of the amendment of the motion should be what verbiage?
Paul wanted to add something, and no,
To allow a setback relief from the wetland on the right side, a 9.6.
correct.
So I would
seconder
make
of the-
that, I would make that verbiage amendment to the motion.
Yeah,
I'll second.
it's, as the seconder of the original thing, I'm happy with accepting that.
Okay, so we're accepting the motion presented by Ms. Hardikoff and seconded as amended by Mr. Fairfield
To include the language.
to include the language to allow setback relief from the wetland per 9.6.
Correct.
Wetland buffer, please.
To allow wetland buffer setback relief from wetland buffer per 9.6.
Thank you.
Is that stated accurately as to your amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Then a roll call vote on that as amended, starting with Mr. Thibodeau.
Thibodeau, aye.
Fairfield, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Flanagan, aye. Samaco, aye. So the motion as amended passes unanimously. You will receive a notice of decision from our land use office.
Thanks for picking up on that, Jamie.
Sorry it wasn't sooner.
Good catch. Okay, and next I am going to call the case that was moved to slot B, which is a request for a variance under RSA 677-33, a rehearing for case 224-67-GR-25-VAR for owner Tanya Mace. And are the applicants present?
Oh,
Come on
Madam
up.
Chair, just for clarification, when you have a rehearing of a zoning board of adjustment case, it is like the case starts all over again, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
So that's why I'm calling the applicants up to present their application. Just 'cause-
Actually, Ernie, do we actually vote on an appeal and rehear this tonight, or do we just vote to rehear it or not?
You guys already voted the hearing?
You already made that decision.
Yes.
Here.
We
At the
made that statement
November-
rehear. Okay, I'm sorry. That's right.
I was gonna say, wait, okay. Welcome, you can, if your speaker, it looks like it's not on, so if you just hit the button and it turns green, there you go. Welcome, if you could identify yourselves and then start with the 5 criteria in your application.
Anya Mays, property owner.
And I'm Adam McCoulian. I live with her for the last 30 years,
Okay,
so.
all right, so in your application, you covered the 5 criteria for a variance. So if you could just start there and walk us through why you believe that the variance criteria apply to your request.
Yeah, I had big time trouble with this the first time. Can you just read it? Because she filled it
My
out.
throat.
I know your throat hurts, but
can't.
I don't really understand what you guys want me to read that for again.
Glasses.
So
Okay,
this
so
is a
it's-
brand new hearing. If you want us to consider anything, it has to be what is presented in this
Okay.
hearing.
All right, so, want to put a carport in it.
You could just
feel-
move this, I think it'll help if you move this closer. It picks up.
Okay, is that better? Okay.
I can hear you.
So-
Thank you.
Okay, so it will not alter or harm the road or the nature of the neighborhood. It will not impose or encroach on any abutters or have a negative effect on the road. We felt that the carport would be in line with other structures in the neighborhood. And it's there to protect 2 vehicles in particular that are older and that we want to keep out of harm's way. And that's kind of what the next number 3 would say. The shelter would allow personal vehicles to be undercover from potential damage to trees, debris, and winter snow and ice. Number 4, the carport would be durable construction and well-maintained as to keep the same aesthetic value of the road and the surrounding neighbors, and to create better curb appeal the way we wanted to have it situated instead of any other direction or place on the property that would be a lot more difficult for us to do and wouldn't look as well from the road. There's no other area that it can be placed on. I guess that's 5A. In our opinion, there's really nowhere on the property that's suitable to put it. So that's why we're choosing where we're asking for the variance. And granting the variance would not interfere with the ability to travel on the road and is consistent with the spirit of abutter storage units, which are on the road. That's about it.
Okay.
Is there more down here I gotta read, or? One more? Oh. Yeah, the property owners, which is us, we have several vehicles, and the carport would allow protection of 2 in particular from the elements. It meets all the other setbacks and remaining on 3 sides from abutters.
Okay, do we have the digital copy of this application that you can put up on the screen?
I have the original.
I don't have my.
Letter that was concerns that were sent, which was the cause for the yes, that would, I looked through all of my material
Well,
everywhere.
so what we're considering now is just the original
Yeah,
application.
I understand.
Madam Chair, I have a couple of questions if I could
Yeah,
begin with
absolutely.
those. First is a procedural question. There was a site walk done. Are we allowed to ask questions of the people that attended that site walk?
Yes, as part of
Okay.
deliberation.
Excellent. For the applicant, how many cars do you have
In total,
on that property?
6.
Okay, and how many of them are registered vehicles?
6.
Okay, there is a garage on the property. Do you utilize it?
I do.
Okay, are there vehicles parked in that?
At present, yeah, 1.
Okay, will it fit more than one?
It can be made to fit more than 1, but it's not really safe.
Okay, and I see it's at the end of the driveway towards the back of the property. Is there a chance that you could, in front of that, place this structure that you're proposing? For what? What's the limitation?
Well, it would just destroy our entire setup, basically, the way the house is set up. The house to the barn, with our dog area where we have our dog fence. And stuff.
Oh, okay, understood.
If it's easier to walk up and point at things, you're welcome
Yeah,
to point at things on the, so,
But you're talking about something that's about 150 yards from right there.
Mm-hmm.
So even if there was nothing down there at all, including the barn, we wouldn't want to put a carport down there, and she wouldn't want to walk down there through the snow and get in it. It's downhill. You know, that's aside from the fact that it's completely
here we go.
not feasible.
Understood.
Just pointing out that those pictures, which are good detailed pictures, they're not. There you go. You're talking way down here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But yeah, we wouldn't want to put it way down there. She wouldn't want to get out of the house and go downhill to get under a carport.
And you don't have a desire to move any of the trees towards the front of the property to allow a bit more of a setback?
No, really. No.
Okay.
There's also a big piece of granite in the ground there. It's uneven, and it's big enough that a good-sized tractor or two have tried to move it. It's just
Gotcha.
you have to fill over the top of it. I understand all that, and we'd have to cut the trees as well. We discussed that in the first meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Thank you.
Perfect. Right? That's what we wanted. Yeah.
So I had a question. If you could show us the one that actually showed there's maybe a light pole or a power pole. There's a pole at the front of the property. Or is that a, is that a,
An electric.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a power pole. Okay. Where in relation to that pole would the front edge of it be?
This fence
Okay.
this way. Driveway comes. Driveway's out. So all of the carport would go there.
Okay. When you say wall, do you mean it just
The poles.
the opening? Okay. Understood. So essentially where the side of the black car is what you're pointing at?
Yeah, so it would start in line with our fence, aiming the same way, which is how our property aims. Well, it's like 18 feet, 17 feet long. If you look at the other picture, our driveway barn. That's still gonna leave 3 or 4 this area. It's gonna come out this way, not uncovered. It won't be covered by the 4 feet is out in here.
Okay.
It'll be back in. So this leaves the whole in and out, plow around it.
Can you just- yes.
Madam Chair, can I ask, I'm seeing green grass. Where does the property line on this picture actually begin? Because I understand that the request is for 0, but it appears to me that you naturally have what is a 5 to 8 foot buffer of grass before you even get to the fence. Is there a reason you applied for 0?
Well, yeah, because we want it in line with the fence, and they can't go back any further without making it. We covered this in such detail, it's hard for me to go over it again. I mean, it's just like ridiculous to go back any feet when we have a paved area that we want to set it on that fits perfectly. It's out of the road, doesn't encroach on the road at all, stays on the inside of that telephone pole, which is inside of our driveway.
Sure. No, my request or the reason I'm asking the question is to request a 0 when you only need a 5 or a 6 seems unusual. Is there a reason you requested a variance to 0?
I think to clarify her question, you're saying your property line ends at the fence, and she's questioning there was grass between the fence and the paved road. So who
Can we go
owns
back
that
to our
grass,
photo
that
with the-
section of grass?
It would be us, but we kind of have given up on that because it's just been cut back and eroded over the years. It's much shorter now. And I even just recently cut it back with a friend's tractor so that the water would seep into our lawn on purpose instead of channeling and coming down the driveway like a funnel, which it does.
Right, but so effectively,
That's our land as far as I know, because I just cut it down and got rid of that ridge.
what she is saying is that you got the road and you've got right now 3 feet of grass.
Is it 3?
Well, thereabouts.
This is a certified plot plan done by a surveyor. You can see that the property line is the fence. So the edge of the roadway is that 3 feet you're discussing.
The grass
You know-
is the road?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
The grass is,
That square dot is the existing fence. It mimics the property line. That's the telephone pole right there that you see. So this would be indicative of the grass area, and this would be the travel way.
Okay.
So it's set back from the roadway, but not their property line per se.
But there is a space between
can you go
the
back to
property
that picture
line
with-
and that.
He's saying the grass is
can
actually.
you go back to that picture?
No, I understand that.
Had you-
In this drawing, there is a space.
Yes, I wanna, yeah, he'll get the picture of it and I'll show you I know where you mean. There's grass on the embankment outside the fence line, right there.
Which is part of the right of way, correct?
No, yeah, I was talking about that, but in the picture where you have done a highlighted square showing where the carport would go, there is a almost triangular cone-shaped area that appears to not be on the property line. The picture that you had before this, right there. Can I come up and show you what I mean?
I think
And
it would
let's-
just, I think it's just inaccurate drawing, maybe.
It's an inaccurate drawing,
Yeah.
okay, because it
Because
doesn't,
we penciled it in.
okay.
For the,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, so that space between that black line and what you've drawn for a carport is not 0 feet of clearance. I was trying to figure out why you, yes.
So this line is gonna be in line with the fence line.
Mhm.
The fence is, that's where we want to put that.
Right, and to clarify, your property line is the fence line. Is that correct? Okay.
And that property, that fence line, yeah, it kicks out as the road kicks out with the road, but we're way up towards, the entryway to the driveway and the telephone pole.
When you walked the property and the trees are there naturally, does the ability exist, since no one drives 6 vehicles all at once, to put in an elongated carport?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
So
Like,
instead of
moving
20 by 20, it would be like 40 by 10 and they'd be stacked like,
40 feet, like going toward the house? Sorry, I'm not.
no,
that's what you
across
mean.
the. Oh, understood. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we can discuss the site walk when we get to the deliberation. Are
Okay.
there any further questions from the board before I open public comment?
I think this was questioned before, but you can see the 2 cars and then you can see like there's a truck.
Right.
Like that space that's right next. And when we were, is that?
That truck was there because I was using the tractor down the driveway further to move some earth, and I parked the truck on the lawn. That's not where I park stuff. And I plow snow there, it banks up snow in the winter. It's the lawn with a big rock in the
But
center.
it did, so that's where you're talking, because that did look like that would be a place where you could,
That's where we keep coming back
that's where
to.
you're talking about
Right
is the
there.
granite rock that would limit you from doing that?
Can you go put your finger on the rock for me? Because I'm not seeing it.
I think I'm straddling it with the truck, to be honest. but it's very.
Oh, you like drove over it and parked the
Much
truck?
more sloped than it appears there too. Actually, you can see that truck is.
Where that truck is, so that's where we used to.
It's very sloped. You can see the slope.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
The truck is 7 feet tall and that Miata is 3 feet tall. And it's almost, it's halfway up the side of the door.
The truck or the tractor, the snow removal device?
Yeah.
The truck for the snow removal. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any commentary or anything that the land use office would like to share?
Just wanted to let you know that you have that memo. During
Okay, we can talk about that when we get to that point, but at this time, if there's no further questions from the board, I'd like to open public comment. So if anybody online or present in the room has a comment, please come up to the lectern and state your name and your relation to this case and share what you would like to share.
Thank you. My name is Robert Enslin. I live at 71 Castle Rock Road, which is catty corner across the street from the property that we're talking about, slightly further down Castle Rock Road from the entrance. The main concern that the neighbors had was concern that the carport would extend further than the fence into the road, which would have caused a great deal of concern for us as far as plowing, and for my wife and I in particular. We have to kind of drive that area at speed and take a left to get up our steep uphill driveway, and having to swerve left and right and so on. So I had not actually seen a layout where the carport was at or behind the fence. So a good chunk of our concern is abated by that. And, I've been neighbors with Tanya and Adam for a long time, and if they want to have a carport, I don't really want to be too obstructionist about that. I am a little concerned about a couple of things, 3 actually. One would be the proximity to that pole, the utility pole. I don't know if that would present a concern for the utility company, repairs and so on moving forward. It looks from the drawing that you put up there, which I guess is not entirely accurate, that the carport would be maybe 1 or 2 or 3 feet back from the fence line. I'm not really sure what the space is. So that would be a concern, is if that would be a problem for the utility company. The second concern would be property value, depending on the quality of the carport. I don't think that we have any other structures that close to the road. So that would be a bit of a concern. And the third concern would be just the precedent of letting too many structures be put in too close to the road. What could that lead to down the road? I want to be cooperative with the process, but those are the concerns that I would cite. As far as me saying, I don't want this, if it's at or behind the fence line and the pole utility is not a big concern, I wouldn't stand up here and say, don't let them do it. It seems very important to them, and they're good neighbors. So with those other concerns, that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
No, public comment is just for you to share your thoughts.
Thank you.
And we will give the applicant another chance to address any public comment, but yes, sir.
Daniel, 334 Old Conk Turnpike. I own multiple lots over there. And as a contractor, I took on rebuilding the road, farther down with the process, and I spent an expensive amount of money on redoing the road. I worked through with HOA and stuff. Over the years, that road's a mess. I spent a lot of money on surveying and stuff. So it goes 50 feet right in that intersection, and it goes back, jumps around. And as a contractor, I need to follow all the rules and residential and stuff. So residents have right to rule on their own property. But I can't work within the, near that telephone pole, or the employees and safety, I have OSHA violations. And they're bringing more power into the lines these days. And I, as a concern, just for you, the street electricity doesn't happen. And then as a contractor, to put any structure, I would have to do it level. So that I would have to fill. And I've been trying to work with the association, OHOA on this and trying to divert all the water. The road needs work there. There's no breathing room there. Well, in effect, but if the road does get built up, we have to fill extensions into their driveway. Like everyone does when the town paves road, they have to go into people's driveway 10 feet, whatever. So we'll have to work, the HOA will have to work with them. And I just want to work together with them best I can. I'm just speaking as a contractor, what I have to go through. And I wish them the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment online or present in the room? If you're online, you can use the raise hand feature. Nobody? Okay, then at this time, I'm going to.
Quick question, Madam Chair, if I could.
Sure.
Are any of the 6 vehicles work vehicles that you use for a business?
Okay, so that's not related to public comment. I was just going
Oh,
to
I'm
close
sorry.
public
Yeah, go
comment
ahead.
first. Okay, so I'm going to close public comment, and we can return to any further questions of the board or further comments by the applicants. So did you have a question?
No, I think you just clarified. I was trying to figure, it's just unusual. The average household has 2 vehicles. So to have 6 is quite a large number. I'm trying to figure out if that constitutes a hardship.
Okay. That's definitely something to consider in the discussion. I would like for you, can you describe what the structure is going to look like? How is it going to be secured? How tall is it? Will it have sides?
One thing I would like to just say, I don't know what the process will be, but I mean, the process of how this is going to go, who gets to say what when, but the carport is going to be high quality. Number one, it's going to be several $1,000s cost-wise to purchase. Then I'll put it up myself. But at that point, as far as people concerned of being aesthetic looking and nice looking, it's not going to be fluorescent. It's going to be like an off beige or earth color, and it's going to have probably a greenish roof or whatever. It's going to look nice. And it'll also never be like the previous case we listened to just tonight. It isn't permanent. I mean, I could, under duress, if the power company, comes in and says, we have to change this pole, like right now. I mean, I'm sure I'd get some notice, but I could take it down. I could pick it up with friends and move it if I had to by unbolting lag bolts from the concrete and get 2 or 3 guys on each side on their shoulder and just walk it out of their way if I had to.
Okay.
We covered this in the first meeting, that this is not a permanent, immovable building. This is a carport. And it's a nice carport. So it's not like one you buy at Walmart and it has tubular things that connect together and you never can get them apart again and it rusts and collapses. It's an expensive carport that's permanent that you can move. But it's meant to last 20, 30 years.
And do you ever have any intention of putting walls or sides on this, or is it going to remain open?
No, it's going to remain open.
Any further questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a question. Just dawned on me, the roof pitch on this, typically these carports, and I have one similar to what you're talking about, has a pretty shallow pitch, like a 3 or 4 inch pitch. Is that going to drain onto your property or is it going to drain into the right of way? The roof drainage.
The roof will shed, I'll probably have to roof rake it if we had a significant storm, because you're correct about the pitch is not very much, but it's similar to a trailer's pitch, if not a little bit more pitch than a trailer. But I would roof rake it. On one side would be definitely on our lawn, and I'd have to push that back. I have a 4-wheeler that I use to clear snow with the plow truck. I mean, so I can move snow, and if the roof sheds into the edge of the road, then I'll have to push that out of the way. But I do that anyway.
Can you turn the roof where it's a square building? Can you just run the ridge line perpendicular to the road so that both sides drain on your own property?
Turning it around just for the worry of snow off of it, no, I wouldn't I wouldn't be willing.
I'm not so much only worried about snow. I'm thinking about rain during the day, freezing at night, and that has gone into the right of way and created ice along your fence where that right of way narrows down. And I can see the travel path on the survey, or actually it's on the town plan, but whatever.
Yeah,
If
no,
if you could keep the drainage on your own property,
well, any liquid would come down our property anyway, if it's in that road and anywhere in that road. And secondly, if the snow off of that shed off onto the roadside, it would be enough to throw out of the way with a couple shovels, you know? I mean, we're not talking about a cascading 40 by 60 steel roof. We're talking about, 20 foot by 10, 8. It's gonna leave a little pile of snow, but I mean, I clean it up. I clean that whole area up anyway, because when the plow goes by, it banks up all over the side of my car. So,
Do you have any concerns that, oh, go ahead, Paul.
what would the hardship be in turning the ridge line the opposite direction, perpendicular?
it wouldn't really be a hardship. It would just be like, I don't want it that way. And I don't think it would look as good that way, period. And it would kind of just be a different way to park the cars, like headed facing out toward the road instead of facing in, towards the rock wall like we're used to. I don't see the point in doing that.
So if it's a building just with corners, are you saying that it's directional? And I
You can
guess
put it however you want to put it, but then you're gonna anchor it down with some bolts
Mm-hmm.
into the concrete.
So the corner of your shed, the two corners along the fence, those posts are going to be along the fence, correct? When I say along the fence, I mean in line with, on your property, but this is what I'm getting at. This is what I'm getting at. So the shed roof is gonna have a soffit to it, an overhang, right?
It won't be enough to worry about anything shedding in the road because it would probably fall within the 3-foot buffer range of the sloping grass covered that was discussed earlier. That area doesn't stop at our fence. It continues across our driveway. So if it's
Understood,
shedding
but
that-
that's still not your property.
Correct.
Right, but there's snow there every time we get snow from the plow that goes by. So we're gonna,
Is that the shed, on my screen just came on a shed. Is that the design you're talking about?
it's similar.
The
to that.
2020 that has the name Summersworth on it?
I just brought that up as a visual reference that some of them do have, sides different than, so it's not square and uniform that you could spin it, like Mr. Apologize.
Because of the
You
bearings,
wouldn't,
I
you'd have to
understand.
pull in from the other way like he explained.
So there's no soffit on this one, Jamie. So this one wouldn't protrude into off his property line. You see where I was headed with the soffit if it's a different type of shed roof? If he has an 8-inch soffit, that's 8 inches is going to be in the right of way, is my point.
Point of order.
Yes.
Can this ZBA place conditions on the 20 by 20 carport to indicate that the higher pitch to one side of it should drain snow and water onto the property? Can we make that a condition of approval?
I believe so. I don't see any
If the
reason why we
board
couldn't.
chose that too, they could make those conditions.
I think that's,
I think, I apologize for forgetting your name.
Adam.
Alan?
or Tanya,
Adam.
Tanya and Adam.
Is that some of these structures don't have that option, and like they were saying, you'd have to pull in from the street instead of pulling to their driveway and park parallel to the road as they're used to doing. So that would be the reasoning. I think that Mr. Thibodeau, in the previous approval had said, no sides, and certainly, the setback is to the furthest projection of the structure. So if there was overhangs in the model that they chose, overhangs are part of the setback. So that would have to be adjusted. They would have to adjust that 1, 6, 12 feet, if they chose a model with bigger overhangs.
And that would be something you would address during the permitting process, Jamie?
Yeah, once it's installed, and I went out there to look at it to make sure it complied with your approvals.
Well, you're gonna get a plan anyway. You're gonna see if he has a soffit or not.
Yep.
The other thing too, Paul, is that I don't know that they've actually picked out the actual one. It may not have a dormer to dormer roof deck. It may have a hipped roof essentially. So there's a lot here for us to, if we're going to get into the roofing of the applicant's choice, then, I mean, I think I know what you're saying is that we want to make sure that any drainage coming off of said roof would not go into the public thoroughfare. I think that's what you're driving at.
It is, you're right.
So, I mean, I'm happy to point out to the applicant that, we're concerned about creating ice, as well as runoff that would be in excess to what nature would already put into the public thoroughfare. And so that during the purchase of the actual shed roof, you keep that in mind, is that the edge of that roof, if it passes into public property, then it's not going to be the code. It's not going to be, were we to accept this. It's one of the concerns that we have, just in the fact that we're talking essentially about a 0-inch setback.
You're talking about the roof pitch being like in a.
I'm not talking about the roof pitch. I'm talking about the edge,
The edge, like
the drip edge of the roof deck. If there is a roof deck that has a drip edge, recall that if that's the edge of your property and the roof deck sticks out over that. I think you do, and I recognize that we're talking about this a second time. I do recognize the frustration, trust me.
It's not gonna overhang. The carport that we have not chosen yet, but I can tell you that it will not have overhanging roofs like that. Because the ones we've all looked at are similar to the ones that Jamie found and put up for us, which is cool. But they're just higher quality. The ones we haven't made a final decision, but they won't have an overhang like that. And it will not go out over the road.
I don't know. My only other question would be, I'd love to hear the document that was submitted after we approved this the last time by the abutter or that caused this. I don't know if that's something we can do.
That's something for consideration in the hearing on whether to rehear it, but not in considering the variance itself. We can only consider the actual original application and what's presented by the property owners and the anybody who chooses to participate in public
And
comment.
so that the fact that a neighbor and or a butter put the letter in last time, I'm assuming, and I wanted to bring this up to make sure it's not my assumption, that said person is aware that he or she could have come tonight.
Yes.
Okay, then I'm good.
Okay. Any further questions or points of discussion by the board?
Yes. Do we know, is there a required setback from a utility pole?
Yes, not from a pole, but from the wires above. Let me see if
Are we sure? Because it does seem like if they need to be able, I just felt that was a good point. If they need to be able to access something that you would think they would need to have a certain amount of space around a utility pole to access it in case of an emergency.
We're out there at least once every couple months.
Right, but you're talking about putting a metal pole right next to it as opposed to a fence.
I mean,
The fence is there.
Right, but when they come out for cable issues, which is frequently, and other power pole issues, which has been a lot on that pole, I've said, do you need me to move my car? Occasionally they've asked me to move if my truck is there. They usually are just like, I'm fine. They use that, whenever they're there, it hasn't been a problem.
Yeah, I'm just clarifying that if there's a taller.
But they don't park, they're accessing the pole, they don't park where.
it wouldn't be parking, it would be about getting to the pole, setting up a
Right,
ladder, a
you
bucket
need
truck, something to that
exactly,
effect.
that's what I'm talking about.
I
And
can't
that's
find anything. The only thing I can find is 3 feet to the wire, outside a window. There's 16 feet, 12 and 16 feet above a traveled way, 12 feet above your driveway. There's different regulations if the roof is walkable versus a steep pitch that has pedestrian traffic or not.
What about, like an easement then for, because a lot of times on properties there are, we're going down a whole nother road,
Yeah,
but there's an
yeah.
easement for power companies to be able to have access. And in that, you're not allowed to put a permanent structure if there's an easement. And this, I know you're saying it's not a permanent structure, however, work would have to be done to move it. So it's a question.
I don't have that answer. I would look at it as not a permanent structure, but I don't have a definitive answer to that question, as it's outside my purview, what Eversource chooses to do and who owns the pole and.
And based on that, in the event that Eversource or your cable company raised a concern about this, I assume you would work with them on mitigating any issues?
Of course. I mean, yeah, if anyone has an issue with it, I guess I'll have to take it down. I mean, it just seems so strange to me that all of this issue over a carport. I mean, I understand your concerns. I honestly do. I'm thinking clearly about them and thinking them through, and I'm like, that you're suggesting all these hypothetical possibilities that I should not live my life by. Like, to me, it feels that way. It's just like, I'm just saying.
I just want to tell you, I think the meeting is going very well. So I think we should just continue on the path we're on. I don't hear anybody saying we don't do this. I will say that as far as Eversource is concerned, or whoever owns that pole, they would need a legal easement across your property, and they don't have one. It's not in your deed. So they can't just require one. So for me, that's a non-issue, the pole. As long as you're meeting clearances to the wires, which code enforcement just said you are, then for me, that's a non-issue. My issue, I'll go back to, was draining water from that roof into the right of way. If it's not going to have a soffit, well, then it should drain onto that fence. And if the ground at the base of the fence is pitched towards your property, it's going to end up on your property. So I think my question was answered with the shape of the roof. And I understand it will either have no soffit, and if it does have a soffit, then the posts of the building will be pulled into the same dimension as the soffit, so that your zero lot line still exists.
Correct.
Okay. Any further questions from the board, comments from the board, anything from the site walk that you would like to share as part of the deliberation?
No, the site walk was not, I don't think we gleaned a whole lot from it. It was, I could see where, talking about the road and how the road narrows to that along the corner of the property. It did strike me that perhaps we could move it over, but we've talked about the rock that's in the way to be able to do that. I don't know, there was a lot of irritation at the site walk, so I don't feel like it was a very effective or calm way to be able to walk through and take a look at the property itself.
Okay. So the thing that I struggle with these types of cases is this is a temporary structure. It is a bolt down structure that can, as the applicant testified to, be moved. And, we take these on a case by case basis, but the issue that I always have with them is that the type of structure that this ordinance was intended to restrict? And that's kind of what I struggle with in these cases, but I'm open to commentary and discussion because, it would be one thing if it was a permanent structure, a garage, but this is a open-sided, and we certainly can impose, if we're considering granting this, we can certainly impose restrictions on, never having sides. But yes, Mr. Fairfield.
So thank you for bringing that up. I don't normally share much about myself, but I've lived all over the world, and I've lived in places where the government is completely 100% in control of everything you do, mainland China. So I thank you for bringing up this comment about the concept that we live in a state that we allege is called live free or die as the motto. As a homeowner, right on Route 4, 30 feet from the road, and I hear the trucks every morning. I think a lot about these when I get these cases. I don't like the fact that, and we tend to approve a lot of ordinance, a lot of applications, and I struggle with myself at the end and prior to the voting, actually, as to why do I find myself voting in the positive? That's what runs through my head every single time. And so when I think about this, I appreciate the fact that the gentleman, Mr. Enslin, I think it was his name, came, and his comments actually mirrored exactly my thoughts, which is as long as it's not detrimental to the neighborhood and the property value. I think realistically, that's how I look at everything from the financial lens. I can appreciate having a property right at the edge of the road. I can appreciate wanting to have a place to park my vehicles, as many as they may be. I think that the fact that it's temporary, that they will not be putting sides and trying to turn this into some sort of storage of documents and papers and all sorts of mess that will clutter the neighborhood, that the color of the roof deck will blend as much as possible into the trees nearby, that it will essentially beautify the fact that they've already got 2 cars parked there, that they already have a parking lot area that's been there for a while. The fact that the town has chosen to allow grass to grow in a public thoroughfare right between the town where actual cars drive lends me to want to.
Could I just?
Let me just finish, please. So, from my point, as somebody on the board, I like the fact that this is an application, and I like the fact that actually I think it was Jackie that brought this up. I like the fact that we have to approve them, and in this case, I'm for approving it because it's temporary. Were this to be a permanent structure, yeah, no way. There's no way I'd be approving a permanent build. And I do recognize that in 2025, there is a huge difference between 50 years ago temporary and today's temporary. But in this application, I'm for approving it. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you. I believe, was there a comment from the applicant?
Well, I was just, in my mind, I was listening to him and I was picturing what he was saying, and it was great. But when he said cars driving by, I guess it was my bad, but I just wanted to add that it is a private road. It is a dirt, private, non-town maintained road.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Okay.
Because I could understand it a whole lot more what he was saying. I guess it's because he said he hears trucks going by. He lives near Route 4. I could see this if this was Route 9 or Hall Road or Young Road or any paved road, then I don't think I would even be asking to put it, on the side of the road. But to me, it's just our neighborhood dirt road.
I understand. Any further comments from the board or motions, if anybody is prepared to make one?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay.
I would make a motion to approve case 22467 GR 25 VAR for Tanya Mays with the following stipulations or conditions. That the approval take place understanding that the roof pitch for the carport is to not impact snow and water runoff by sending it into the roadway. that you understand, should there be a need to move the temporary open structure, that would occur so that the electrical components leading to Castle Rock can be addressed, that the sides be open to the structure. Granting this variance would not be contrary to public interest, as it will not have a negative impact on the surrounding area. It would be consistent with the spirit of the ordinance and do substantial justice, allowing the homeowners to use their property effectively. Granting the variance would not result in diminution of surrounding property values. And the unnecessary hardship appears to be that the weather in New England requires coverage for your vehicle.
Okay. Prior to asking for a second, I just want to double check with the zoning administrator that that language is something you can work with as far as enforcement when it comes to checking the build afterwards.
Yep.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call vote starting with Mr. Thibodeau.
Thibodeau, aye.
Fairfield, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Flanagan, aye.
Samaco, aye. Okay, your application is granted. You'll receive a notice of decision from the land use office.
Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our cases for this evening. The next step is reviewing and approving the minutes from the November 19th meeting. Now, the only people present for that were Mr. Fairfield, Mr. Thibodeau, and Ms. Flanagan. So I will be recusing myself from that vote. And I understand
I would
Ms. Hardikoff.
recuse myself as well.
So for the three of you, does anybody have any comments on those minutes?
I did not receive a packet with the minutes this month.
I think because they were emailed, we were all expecting.
Okay, we can defer that vote to.
I would defer that
Okay.
just so we can actually read them.
Okay, do I have a motion to move that to our next meeting?
I would so motion.
Second.
Roll call of,
Fairfield,
Thibodeau,
aye.
aye.
Flanagan, aye.
okay, perfect. We'll just move that until everybody can get a paper copy. I do have an electronic copy, but I'm not gonna pass my laptop to you guys.
Yeah, I have it on my phone.
Okay, and any other business that may come before the board for any board members or land use?
Barbara put together a 2026 date
Oh, perfect.
list for you.
I would actually have a comment.
Yes.
I feel like there has been a bit of a lack of communication and a lack of sort of knowing what's going on. For example, this site walk. Paul had sent out a message to everyone a week and a half or so before it was supposed to take place, asking who was going to be able to attend the site walk. And so I replied, and I believe I replied all, and I said I would be there, and heard nothing from anybody until, and oftentimes with a lot of this, who's coming to a meeting, who's going to do things, I generally try to reply all. And so not having heard anything, I had the day before, bring up saying what's happening with the site walk, and all of a sudden I was the only person going to it. And it really, I was not effective. It would have been far more effective for all of us to be there. And I feel had there been better communication between all of us as a zoning board, that people answered or replied all, or there was some way to coordinate it, we could have seen a week and a half in advance that there was only one person who suddenly had availability and we need to reschedule that, but we couldn't because it was last minute. And and even when we get here tonight, it's like, who's going to be here, who's not? So I just feel like there needs to be a little bit better communication taking place between us all.
So here's the thing and why that's a slippery slope. I do have a way to resolve that, but we should, as a board, generally not be emailing each other as a group. So when I receive an email like that, I reply directly to whoever sent it. Typically scheduling and figuring out who's going to be at the meetings goes through Barbara for that reason, because if we are emailing each other as a group, that's a quorum. And while scheduling is typically, exempted from, the right to know requirements and whether we need to have minutes of a meeting, in general, the best practice is to not be emailing each other as a group, which is why reply all is not necessarily the way to handle it, and why perhaps people are replying, but they're replying to the original sender in order to avoid that problem. So I typically will stop in and actually check in with Barbara in person. I can talk to her about sending a confirmation of who has confirmed. That way it's not coming via an email group, but you are getting the ultimate information of who has confirmed.
So in this, well, according to Paul, nobody replied to him but me.
I didn't even see his
and-
email. I'm not sure. I
And then
got it.
secondly, so if we made it, so then
I replied to Barbara, because of 91.
so,
Anytime something like that comes up, I send to Barbara, like, I passed you because I was heading to another appointment and I saw you coming and I was going. And, but I had replied to Barbara that I was not available.
so I don't, and then the question also becomes, if we finished our meeting and we said this is the site walk, was it left up to the members who weren't here to sort of read the notes to know that it was taking place? Or like, who would typically be responsible to say, as soon as that meeting's done, we're confirming that this site walk is to take place and who can go? Because we had to go with just the schedule of the few of us that were here.
That is something else that we can definitely try to put a mechanism in place, because I actually didn't find out about it until weeks later.
Right.
Because I was not at the
Right,
meeting. I was at
so-
conference.
And that happens for alternates as well. So,
Yeah, right.
that's definitely, I think the communication.
That's the second thing, and I want to apologize then. There's two things. One is I totally planned on going. Obviously, I have a lot of personal
Yes.
health issues, and so I literally that day was miserable. Much more miserable. I should have called somebody. And I also know, because we were counseled when I was on PBA in the state of Maine, counseled to sent from the chair. And so I like, frankly, I haven't logged into my email because I just had counted on the mailing stuff, and then I planned on going, and
Just so you guys know, I can't hear anything.
So I know that we're not supposed to talk to each other outside of here because of lawsuits and stupidity, pardon my French, on this issue, which I recognize lawyers take offense to, and I apologize. But we're not allowed to be human and communicate amongst ourselves because we represent the town. So I get it. So I just ignored. But I should have called and said, hey, I'm way too sick. But when I was way too sick, I can't see straight.
So, and I just want to say, it was because it was only regarding a meeting is why there wasn't discussion. It was just simply who would be attending a meeting could be scheduled.
The slippery slope was that you could start out with, no, I can't make it, but I'm already familiar with the property, or that I already, that's where we get into that 91A or I already heard from so-and-so, like you just can't. So I use Barbara as my communication.
Yeah, but there's room for improvement. I will stop in and talk to her, and maybe there are certain things that I can disseminate. I will BCC and put specifically, do not reply to this email. This is for informational purposes only. If you need something, please direct it to Barbara, but let me talk to her first. There are ways that we can do this and make sure that information gets shared to anybody that's not there without coming up against that quorum problem of the reply alls. So there's definitely things that we can do to fix that, to make sure that everybody feels like they're getting the appropriate amount of communication. But just making it clear that oftentimes there are responses being made, they're just not being made to everyone for that purpose.
I can honestly think of 3 or 4 questions that I asked the applicant that had I been present for the site walk, I wouldn't have asked, I would have already had those answers. So they are valuable.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
I just want to second what Jackie said. I'm away, and I was at the meeting scheduled that I presided over the meeting, and then I don't know if it's who's going, it's going to happen or not. There was discussion through Ernie about filming the meeting, I think you were gonna do that, weren't you, Ernie, and disseminate that?
I didn't hear.
There was an attempt and the kind of the wheels fell off the bus, Paul. It wasn't productive at all.
Okay.
The sidewalk?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're not
absolutely
gonna,
not.
we're not gonna discuss that further, but, okay. There is a volunteer event coming up. I'll make sure that everybody gets that information by email. But, anything else from the board or from the town? No? Okay, well, yeah.
To adjourn, Madam Chair.
Do I have a second? I will second.
So
Roll call vote, starting with online.
Thibodeau,
Fairfield, aye.
Bye-bye.
Flanagan, aye.
Samaco, aye. Happy holidays, everybody.